So we have a question and answer session. Seems to be many questions written down, so don't be disappointed if your question is not answered today. Maybe it will be answered tomorrow.
Okay. So the first question is there a particular teaching from Luang Por Chah that you've heard once or maybe several times that had a very profound meaning for you that you remember particularly?
I found when I met Ajahn Chah, I'd already had a year as a samanera in another place, and I'd spent a year investigating these Four Noble Truths, and but I still had, I still didn't quite have insight into anatta, like the first two characteristics, anicca, dukkha, almost speak for themselves, but there always seemed to be a subject, who is it that knows, and so I still had this question in my mind. And when I met Luang Por Chah with his emphasis on Puto, this is a mantra used by the Thai forest tradition, like Luang Pu Man and famous forest Ajahns taught this. And I found it because they translate it into Thai as Puru, meaning the knower. And suddenly everything began to click into place, like the knowing isn't personal, it's the nature of consciousness, and knowing from awareness rather than knowing about all kinds of things through personal identities with the ego, with the cultural conditioning, with the education. So that was an emphasis on Puto was to me very inside. I really appreciated that. And suddenly during this retreat, I've been emphasizing the importance of this refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha and internalizing it, so that the anatta is no self, is not a personal self, it's not Sakya Ditti or the ego or the personality that knows. And Puto, or the Buddha knows the reality, knows Dhamma. Then that's following the scripture. That's quite clearly stated in the Tripitaka. But then the sense of really taking these refuges. Before I would just take them because it's part of a ceremony, but then I began to what they call internalizing Buddha Dhamma Sangha rather than just chanting the Pali ceremonial chants. And then the Puru, the knower, is not a person. It's not Ajahn Sumedho, it's not Ajahn Chah, it's knowing, and even this is an intuitive feeling of an insight feeling that I had when I encountered Luang Por Chah.
there's a question about what do you mean when you talk about life being impermanent, but the Buddha is not impermanent?
Well, the Buddha is I mean, the words are impermanent. And it's merely a reminder, like this morning when I started the talk, Dhamma talk, I chanted Aparuta de Sangamatasa Tawara Sodawantaba Munchantu Satang. This was, the Buddha made this announcement of his enlightenment, the gate or the door to the deathless is open. So then the Yesodawanta, those who hear, who understand, take faith in this, or release your faith into this knowing. And the gate to the deathless is aparitadesang amadasa is a deathless. Dwara is the door, the gate. Then you think, what is a deathless? What does that really mean? The deathless or immortal, or the amatta dhamma, the deathless reality, the amatta dhamma, when everything is about death. Like the bodies we have, once they're born, they grow up and die. Grow old and die, and then thoughts come and go, memories come and go. Everything that has a beginning has an end to it. Everything that is born and dies, and that's on all the sense levels. You investigate it in the Satipatthana through the Kaya, Vedana, Citta, Dhamma. You begin to, you're not just grasping the ideas that you get from the scripture, but you're actually testing it out, verifying it through direct insight. But what is the deathless? And you can't define, the thinking process, just examining our ability to think is limited to the birth and death, to conditioned phenomena. Like Nibbana, you can't describe, you can't define Nibbana or Anatta or Amatta Dhamma. Then there's thing in the Nibbana Sutta, there's this very wonderful clarity in the teaching of there's the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. You can't imagine, just try to make images or pictures of the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. It's an abstraction, it's a negation of the form, the created, the born, the conditioned. You can imagine anything formed, created, born, or conditioned. Your thinking abilities can create images, abstractions, sizes, shapes, colors, different qualities, big or small, macro or micro, and size. And this is the conditioned realm. This is the sankhara realm. You can imagine, you can create, you can define, but the unborn, try to imagine the unborn. And when I do that, I test my mind out. I can't imagine it. It's impossible. The thinking mind stops. You can't create an image, or all you can know is there is the statement, and the Buddha used the words ati bhikkhave, there is bhikkhu. So it's not like theoretical, it's not theory, like I believe there is an unborn, uncreated, or I think there is. This, when he says ati bhikkhave, it's like there is. It's a positive statement of truth. What can that be if everything, all conditioned phenomena is impermanent? And so that's where the thinking mind ceases. You know, you can't use your thinking mind anymore. You've got to trust your awareness. So that's the gate, the door to the deathless. Because like this morning, just encouraging this reference to Buddho, not as a concept and believing in Buddha, but as a reminder, a directional sign to be aware, awake. Because that awakened awareness is the gate, is the way we recognize the deathless reality, anatta Dhamma. So, like the Dhamma in the Third Noble Truth, it's where you can't find deathless Dhamma or that you can't qualify it, you can't show it to anybody, but you can know it directly through awareness and wisdom. Because it's not a thing, doesn't have any qualities that one can put to it. But it is reality itself. It's awakened consciousness. So, and these kind of teachings are, very forceful directional signs. Like the Four Noble Truths aren't to be grasped as kind of Buddhists believe in Four Noble Truths and just leave it at that, but it's the Bhatipata style. Like Ajahn was, his emphasis on Bhatipata, because in Thailand, there are about 200,000 bhikkhus, an enormous population of Buddhist monks there. And Ajahn when I met him, was emphasizing Bhatipata, because with this enormous population of Buddhist monks, not many practice or Bhatipat. They don't actually practice the Buddhist teachings, but they might be Pali scholars, they might be experts on Pali and Abhidhamma or Buddhist ceremonies. And so Ajahn was emphasizing Bhatipata. Now, Bhatipata is a Pali word, but in Thai they shorten it to Bhatipat. He said, Wat Papong is Wat Bhatipat. And I remember my Thai was very limited in the beginning, but I could understand that much. And then the Noble Truths, as I was saying, the first aspect of each truth is a statement from the scripture, from the sermon. So you're taking an intellectualized teaching and then putting it into practice, which is should be understood, should be the second one is should be let go of. The third noble truth is the cessation of suffering should be developed, should be clarified, should be made clear. So certainty of nirodha, of non-attachment, of non-desire, of non-self. Non-desire, non-self, non-grasping. These are what we discern with panya or wisdom. Now, wisdom is not like knowing all about everything or having opinions about right and wrong. It's discerning reality from illusion. And this is what panya is in Pali in the Pali language. Where wisdom, English word, can be applied to, wise sayings from Confucius or Plato, Aristotle, and saying profound things. But in this aspect, it's about discerning, and the difference between discerning and discriminating. Like your thinking mind is to discriminate. So you're thinking, you're looking at sankharas, at what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think. All the sankharas have qualities, have shape, form. You can define, you can describe them. You can take them and show them to people. But for ultimate reality, you can't show it, you can't describe it, but you can know, because this gate to the deathless, the amarta dhamma, is what we begin to recognize. It's the only escape we have. Well, there's no other escape, actually, except through mindfulness, sati, sampajanya, and panya. We call it the escape hatch, or the gate to the deathless. But this really touched me when I first read this, Aparuta de Sangamatasata. It's like somehow, the Buddha said in this very positive way, without any hesitation, there is the gate to the deathless is open. Or in the Nibbana Sutra, there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. It's like something confident in that statement. It's no longer theorizing about the ultimate nature of anything, or whether there is or isn't. And then, because there is the unborn, unformed, uncreated, there is escape from the born, the formed, the created, the conditioned. There is a way out. We're not just helpless victims of fate, like it might seem, or just kind of hopefully, when we die, we will either go to oblivion, or hopefully if we might, who knows what happens, might be reincarnated as a devata, is one more hopeful aspect. We don't know. But the deathless, the deva realms, you can qualify. They have qualities. They're conditioned. But Nibbana is not a deva realm. It's not conditioned. It's an enigmatic word that when you try to, what does it really mean? Usually like Luang Por Chah or Ajahn Puddhatat would say, it's the reality of non-grasping, discerning, non-grasping. So that's the wisdom, where you actually discern. Non-grasping is like this. Grasping, you have to know, grasping, which we do all the time, creates dukkha, or the suffering. And then through this investigation of the Four Noble Truths, then you see you prove to yourself how you create your suffering through grasping the conditioned realm. You let go, and then that which leads to the Third Noble Truth, and the road at the end of suffering. And there's a discerning, suffering ends. It's not permanent. It's not mine. But when it's present, this realm that we experience its very nature is dukkha. So our relationship to it is to know it, and discern it, but not grasp it.
How does one practice when fear is a strong habitual response to situations? It's So there's fear and vibhava tanha coming up, trying to reject the fear. How to practice with that?
Fear is a primal emotion. This is a fear realm. And Amravati had lived in this caravan for several years, and it was in a grove of trees. And so I used to spend time watching the squirrels. There are a lot of squirrels there. And I noticed that squirrels are incredibly confident in the trees, when they're up in a tree. They're rather cheeky and I put out this bird feeder, hang it from branch on a tree. And these squirrels would come and they'd perform acrobats around this bird feeder trying to get the nuts. One was hanging by its feet from a limb above, trying to get the nuts out of this bird feeder. It was quite funny. They were very, squirrels have this kind of cheeky, mischievous air to them, but when they get on the ground, they're not confident at all. They're very frightened because they know a cat or a dog might be, the enemy is around, but in a tree, they feel safe. And I thought, this is the nature of things, This realm is about, survival. And the human being, we've got the same animal nature as that, where this is a fear realm. And then recognizing that, you kind of accept it. And the thing with fear is thinking you shouldn't be afraid. Like my generation of American males was you never admitted you were afraid of anything. And so you put on this macho, and I'm not afraid of anybody, but inwardly you were afraid of all kinds of things. Because it was personal, isn't it? Like men, if you're really a he-man, you wouldn't be afraid. You're not a coward, and you're brave, and these kind of macho images arise. They're very strong in my generation, and boys don't cry, that kind of thing. And but fear is, and I go see horror films like Dracula and Frankenstein and pretend nothing scared me. So other friends say, well, did that Dracula film scare you? They say, no, I was lying, but in a monastery, for example, living in Vatmapong with Lumpang, there's high standard of morality, and there wasn't this deceit going on. It's very, but then Thais are afraid of ghosts, and and I was brought up to believe that there aren't anything such as ghosts. So when I'd go to my mother and talk about ghosts, she said, that's just superstition. There's no such thing as ghosts. So the information I had was that there weren't any. It was superstition. And this is the cultural conditioning that I had from my background in America. And then you're living in a society where everybody's afraid of ghosts. And Lumpang used to get me to take young samaneras out to graveyards and charnel grounds to spend the night, because they were all afraid of ghosts and I wasn't. And so I take these boys, who are samaneras. In Thailand, the samaneras are always under 20, they were boys, and so I'd put them. We'd have these umbrellas. We sleep out on the ground on a mat with an umbrella with a mosquito net around it. So I'd put them in a separate place so they weren't together. In the forest where all the ghosts live. And in the morning, they're all under one umbrella. And I'd hear noises like you're living under this umbrella with a mosquito net, and then you hear sounds in the forest around you. And I always think it was just like animals or insects or whatever, but they would always interpret it as ghosts. They'd hear ghosts. Now this is cultural conditioning. This is what cultural conditioning is about. So it's not personal so much. It's just where the kind of information you got from your cultural, ethnic background, religious background. But my belief, there weren't any ghosts. Now after 50 years, I'm not so sure. I was much more sure 50 years ago. There's so many unknowns, and you see your own limitation as a human to deal with this vast universe. But, it is the human conceit. Human beings can be very conceited and arrogant in thinking that we can make proclamations. There isn't any God, and there's no ghosts, and all that's just rubbish, superstition, and reject things because we might worship the rational mind or modern materialist empirical science. But the truth of the matter is we don't know, we don't discern, and learning to like fear, it has power over you as long as you run away from it. And that's where to deal with fear is to like with vipassana, to recognize fear is like this. When you feel frightened, rather than just running away or trying to get away from it, look at it more like the nature of fear as you're feeling it in your body, as you're in your heart area, where you're shaking or shuddering with fear. Take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha to observe this fear is sankhara. So dealing with fear is primal, and don't see it so much as some kind of personal weakness or make it blame your ethnic background or your parents for it, but because you're afraid of ghosts. But you can actually use fear and understand it through wisdom, because it is sankhara. It's not ultimate reality.
Someone is asking a question about how to help someone, a parent, not to succumb to mental or emotional instability.
How to
help someone, mother, or not to succumb to emotional, mental instability.
Yeah, well, it's like just developing your own practice has a powerful effect on people around you. One thing, like being a Buddhist monk in a non-Buddhist country, you people think you're some kind of missionary. So they like English people would. I get sometimes the impression is you're not going to convert me. Maybe my son or daughter is a Buddhist, but you're not going to get me. if I came out and showed friendliness, I think I'm trying to, try to convert them to Buddhism. But like with parents or people that aren't Buddhists, or people that have a lot of emotional instability, they need encouragement, and the encouragement is through example, through our own example, as we gain more confidence in the Dhamma. It has a profound effect on the people we live with, on the relatives we have. And like in dealing with trauma, with emotional instability, people, it's always seen as some kind of weakness rather than seen as an opportunity. So sometimes, vipassana type meditation, encouraging people towards mindfulness is a way to deal with despair or depression or fears, irrational fears. It can't harm. At worst, it's harmless, and at best, it really directs your attention in a different way. Because the biggest fear is a failure of being rejected, of being not worth anything. I mean, these are, worrying what others think, feeling that we've let people down and we're not good enough. These kind of attitudes can be, they're sankharas like any other. So the teaching of the Buddha is to know sankhara as impermanent rather than as self. Now the personality, your ego will tell it's you. You can't believe what your personality says because it's a kind of habit pattern you've developed. Self-disparagement, self-criticism, all this can be, you have, like, people have a kind of inner tyrants, critics that are constantly saying, disparaging you. These are like mental habits we've developed, taking the critical faculties and turning it inward. As some people are critical of everything outward, but many people turn the critical thinking mind inward towards themselves, and so we can hear these endless insults and criticisms of self. And then just this sense of seeing, of recognizing it, is a sankhara, rather than some kind of reality that we believe in or operate from.
There's a question about advice you could offer for lay people who meditate and then have to go back into society.
Yeah, well, it's like this weekend is a special event, and so it's like retreats, meditation retreats are like spoon feeding. You're being spoon fed. Everything's set up, and you just follow the schedule, and you don't have to, go shopping for food or cook dinner or anything like that. I mean, and it's in a retreat center or some other place. It's not yours, so you can forget about, the maintaining the house and so forth. So it is, we try to set up retreats as kind of special events. Noble silence, 8 precepts. Because that can be very helpful. But then we can get the idea that we can only meditate on a retreat. So there are retreat addicts. People addicted to meditation retreats. Which is, if you're going to have an addiction, that's probably one of the better ones. But also, the Buddha's teaching isn't about controlling events and seeking perfect situations, but of discerning in the present moment. So that, when you leave here and go back to your homes and your offices, your workplaces, trust yourself to be more mindful. Just see, the people you live with, your family, how it affects you. You can learn a lot from just being a knower when you go home and your family greets you and the questions they ask you, how do you feel? So you begin to be aware of what the people, the family you live with, how they're affecting your consciousness in the present. And learning to integrate that into, say, the workplace. I traveled a lot, so I became for a while I was an international upacharya, or preceptor. So I used to come to Australia and New Zealand more often because I was one who could ordain, designated by the Thai Sangha to ordain monks. And so I'd be waiting in queues and waiting for the baggage to arrive on the carousel and waiting to go through immigration. And of course, you'd see people were waiting for you outside in the arrivals area, and you saw this queue, and you get very impatient if it wasn't moving very fast. And I'd use all these opportunities, this impatience, observe it. And so I developed meditation around waiting in queues, waiting for my bag to appear on the carousel. Using just these kind of ordinary things that we can just see as not meditation, You get through the queue, get through the immigration, get your bag, and get to the monastery and meditate is one way of looking at it. Or waiting in the queue when the line is moving slowly, being aware of the impatient feelings you have, or how you emotionally react to the slowdown of the queue, or the way things are happening around you. So it's learning to trust more your awareness of things, so that you can integrate it into the mundane daily life that you live. Going into a supermarket or a shopping mall, or we can see that's not meditation, but it's still be mindful of the effect things have on you. In Bangkok, for example, we've got terrible traffic problems, traffic jams, and Thai people, sometimes spend several hours stopped in a traffic jam. And I say, it's a good time for mindfulness meditation. Because if there's anything that arouses dukkha is a Bangkok traffic jam. And you start seeing it as opportunity for noble truth, then it changes from being something you're just fed up and complain about, or you use with wisdom, mindfulness and wisdom.
There are a couple of questions about eating meat, eggs, milk, vegetarianism. Can you say a few words about what attitude to adopt towards those things?
In the Theravada, we're not expected to be vegetarian. When the Buddha established the Sangha, there was the aim of BuddhaBodhivana, going on alms round, was you accept food from people. You're not just going to Brahmin houses where they have vegetarian food, but you accept the food offered by a low caste or outcast or whoever, so you're not discriminating into the caste system. So there's no kind of law or rule about vegetarian diet. In Mahayana, I think they're much more strict about vegetarian diet. But in Thailand, for example, I'd have periods where I was very strict vegetarian, and then I'd become almost obsessed with what I was eating. Because in Thailand they tend to put this fish sauce in everything. So, and when I do something, it tends to be over the top, and so incredibly strict, and I wouldn't eat anything with fish sauce in it, and I became a nuisance. And Ajahn tried to take me to, I'd be invited to somebody's home, and they prepare all this food, and then they'd say, but Sumedho is vegetarian, and then they have to rush around trying to find something that's vegetarian. And after a while, I decided I was just going to, I didn't want to make my obsession, become a vegetarian as an identity. So then I thought of the word bhikkhu, which is alms mendicant, and the original practice that's listed in the Vinaya Pitaka about receiving food. If somebody has killed an animal to give you, say, I've killed this chicken just to give to you today, then you shouldn't accept it. But, and eggs, and the vegan is very strict. So there's different levels, but generally speaking, I just don't want to make a problem around what I eat. And I've always felt gratitude because, like today, the Donna, this care and interest in providing food for the Sangha, you reflect on that every day, because we're dependent on this basic offering, just because there's no way we can really prepare our own food according to the Vinaya structures we follow. And we can't go and buy it, and we can't grow our own vegetables. So we're dependent on the generosity and kindness of the lay community. Now this has a good effect on both the Samana Sangha and the lay community, because people love to offer food and requisites to the Sangha. It's not, we're not intimidating you or kind of telling you should give us food. It just happens. And then in England, for example, Chitra's Ramavati, where people, especially like the Asian communities come on weekends to give, so like on a Saturday or Sunday at Amravati, you got a lot of Thai or Cambodian or Sri Lankan people come, and there's this joy of giving, of offering, making offerings, and which affects the Europeans that come to the monastery. So I can see why the Buddha established a monastic order on alms mendicancy. Because according to an American mind, it shouldn't have survived. It's been going on for 2,500 years. I mean, this gives you, you recognize that the Buddha was establishing the Sangha on wisdom principles, not on mores of the time or attitudes about, views or ideas of the time. He was establishing it on wisdom principles coming from wisdom, so that the actual monastic form still operates like you see sitting in front of you. This is the traditional form. It hasn't changed that much over 2,500 years. Encourage vegetarianism because it's good, but I personally prefer to just eat the food that's offered.